Gonna do a little flight with the Horizon Hobby's own Conscendo, a plane I really like. This is the one I lost and then found again. I lost it because I was trying to fly it too early in the morning with a mist, and it went up into the mist and disappeared over there. Found it by taking some video with this same camera actually. Oh, so now I've got the EFC 721 on the back of it. Now I need to start it recording. I don't know. Yep, that's recording. Yeah, well, if it's going to do any good, it's not going to do any good sitting on there if it's not recording. Yeah, I sent that up on The Apprentice and found it out behind that hill there. This guy with some snails on him and a dead battery, but otherwise okay. That was 3 days later, mind you. Anyway, I really like this plane. They discontinued it, I don't know why, because it's such a nice plane. I don't know why they would discontinue it. It's such a nice plane. I don't know why they would discontinue it, really, I don't. It's, you know, I mean, it's basically a powered glider, but it's 4 channels, so you can do other things with it if you want to. And it's a good size for me. It's ideal. It just fits really nicely in the trunk of my car without any need to muck around with anything. Just throw it in the trunk of the car. Light and easy to hand launch. It's just, you know, it's just a joy, really. You know, and I mean, it does actually, I mean, it has power, and if you really want to, you can do some, you know, basic aerobatics and things with it. It's not an aerobatic plane, but it's not an aerobatic plane, and I mostly fly it as a glider, but, you know, it's got ailerons, it's got like a reasonable amount of power, so, you know, you can do all that stuff with it, but then you can just, you know, cut the power and let it glide. It's a sort of dual-purpose plane. And I must admit, I mostly have it up there just gliding. Oh, and the other nice thing about it is it climbs really well, as you probably saw when it climbed out, and we'll climb it again in a bit. It's not like some planes that, you know, they're a problem to get altitude with to glide. It's got plenty of power to, you know, to get the altitude. And then it just glides so well when it's up there gliding. You know, to me, it's one of the best planes that Horizon Hobby have ever made. So why the heck they only made it for a year or so and then discontinued it, I do not know. Which seems to be the case, I don't know, unless it comes back. Sometimes they discontinue things and then they come back, but it's currently, as far as I know, well, I haven't looked since I lost this one. I lost this one at the beginning of the year and looked to see if I could order another one, and it was listed as discontinued. It's, I think it's a lovely plane, as I say. You know, I mean, if it were your only plane, you could do both of it. I mean, you could fly it just as a regular sort of aerobatic plane and whatever. Let's go up again. You might, if you were going to fly it more, let's try and not go into the flaming sun. The sun's nice and all that, but we don't really want to fly right into it. Time
remaining 5 minutes.
I can see if it was going to be your only plane and you wanted to do more aerobatics and things with it, you might want to try putting a bigger battery in it, and you probably could do so. It comes actually with, interestingly enough, when you buy it, it comes with an EC3 connector on the ESC, but then they have an EC3 to EC2 adapter, and they give you an EC2 battery with it, 2-cell, which is what's in it now. The what's in it now is exactly the battery it comes with, an E-flite 1300 milliamp hour 2-cell with an EC2 connector on it. And that's the battery it comes with. Same battery that comes with the Stratocam and the Delta Ray. And they make, what is it, a Kinesis 1200 milliamp hour one that's pretty much the same. Same size, it's just 1200 milliamp hour. And I've pretty much always flown it with that, really. There's birds, but they're nowhere near the plane, so they're not even bothering to check it out at this point. It's warming up now, the sun's coming. If it was cold, I was wearing a zipped up jacket when I got here. I mean, see how well that flies? And there's no thermal there or anything, that's just flying in still air, basically, pretty much. Pretty much, I mean, there might be a little bit of rising current now the sun's up, but mostly that's just flying in still air. It's a terrific glider, and you know, you can, and it's 4-channel, and you can do a fair bit of flying with it if you want to. Although, as I say, if you were going to be flying, if you wanted to fly it, see, when I fly it as a glider, more often than not, I only use about 2 or 3 minutes. I've got the timer set for 6 minutes, but I only use 2 or 3 minutes of motor time, because I'm spending most of my time like this with the motor off, gliding. I find I can get about 7 to 9 times the battery time than the motor time, flight time, if I just fly it as a glider. So for every, if I fly it for, in other words, I can get, like, for 1 minute of motor time, I can get 7 to 9 minutes of flight time. So for 3 minutes of motor time, I can get 20 minutes to half an hour, basically. Which is about as long as I want to fly it for. Half an hour is about, I don't normally... sometimes I do fly it for half an hour. I'm not going to fly it for half an hour now, I don't think. I mean... but make an unnecessarily long video. It's a low pass. And then we'll take it up again. But I really love it. I mean, you know, it's a terrific glider, and really, you know, if you just wanted to fly it as you know, as whatever, as a powered plane, a perfectly capable powered plane as well. But you might, as I was wandering around, never getting to the point, saying you might want a bit more battery capacity if you were going to be flying it with a motor on all the time. And you could do that. You could easily put a slightly bigger battery in it. It's got room there. For gliding, you don't need a bigger battery. This battery is perfectly adequate for flying it as a glider. I mean, look at that. I mean, seriously, what glider? I don't think a Radian... I've got the Radian Extra Large. That's a nice glider, but I don't think it flies. I don't think it glides any better than this. I don't know how anything could glide any better than this, honestly. I mean, this is just glides so well. It seems to me Horizon Hobby just hit a home run with this one, and why the heck they would discontinue it, I don't know, unless there's some technical reason they couldn't go on producing it for whatever reason. It's just such a nice plane. I do fly it mainly as a glider because I like to fly a glider, and this is, I would say, you know, it's just a terrific glider. And I've got other planes, you know, that I'd be more inclined to fly, honestly, as, you know, if I want to fly a plane, you know, whatever, for mild aerobatics and things, I've got other planes that I more do that with, you know, where I'm flying them powered all the time and doing some mild aerobatics. This guy, I mostly actually fly him as a glider, but as you can see, I mean, he can, he's perfectly capable of, you know, basic maneuvers. He's not a hotliner somebody was saying he looked like a hotliner. And he does look like a hotliner, I'll give you. But the difference is he weighs a lot less. He's a glider. I mean, if he were a hotliner, he would weigh more. He would have more power and he'd weigh more. But he doesn't. He can do a certain amount of flying and things. And if you put more, you know, if you generated a bit more power with him, you could do even more. But he's basically configured as a glider. Except arguably, I'm not sure if he even really needs the ailerons to work as a glider. But I mean, you know, I mean, the only other glider they made with ailerons really pretty much is the Radian Pro, and I think this, I don't see any doubt this knocks the Radian Pro out of the park. It's just way better. I don't know. It's a great little plane. It's easy to carry around, easy to work with. You just put it in the trunk of your car, take it out, and do what you want. You can. It's virtually dead calm now, but it's perfectly capable of flying in quite a bit of wind. It's not unhappy with wind at all. Yeah, I'm taking it up there till I can hardly see it, but yeah, no, I mean, it just so happens that this morning it's almost dead calm, but that's by no means a requirement for this guy. You can fly him on quite a windy day. I mean, it's probably not going to be a lot of fun flying him if the wind's horribly blustery and blowing, hard in one direction and then suddenly switching and blowing hard in another direction. It's not particularly much fun to fly anything when the wind conditions are like that. But a steady wind staying more or less, well, I mean, it doesn't have to be dead steady, but, if the wind's not varying too massively much and it's mainly coming from the same direction, he's fine with quite a blustery day. You basically then you glide him mainly into the wind. You put his nose into the wind and you glide him. I kind of stalled him there, and there's a limit to how much you can glide even this, and then everything has its limits. I dropped his nose a teeny bit there by trying to keep him up a little bit too much, but I mean, you don't do that a lot with this guy. I do that less with this guy than probably with any other glider I've tried. Okay, you can see him rocking a bit. There's definitely there is getting to be a little bit of wind. They said there was going to be like 10 to 15 km/h winds this morning, and there probably will be once the sun gets up properly. You can see his wings starting to rock a little bit there, so there's getting to be, and I can feel the wind on my back a little bit. There's getting to be a little bit of wind now. A little bit. But I mean, there was absolutely none when I came, pretty much. And it's only a little breath getting up now, well, at least at ground level. Might be a little bit more up there. But you can fly this guy in 30 to 40 km/h winds comfortably, no problem. As I say, so long as they're not massively abruptly changing direction. If they're massively abruptly changing direction, it gets to be a bit of a problem to fly anything. But most normally windy days, he's a pretty good plane to fly on a windy day. You just point his nose, get him up there, point his nose into the wind and let him glide in the wind, and he'll glide. And of course, if there's that much wind, in fact, if it's 30, 40 km/h, you see how slow he glides. So he'll actually end up going backwards away from you, and that's one slight problem, really. He won't even come towards you if the wind is that much, because he'll be gliding slower than the wind's going, so he'll be moving backwards. So you may actually end up having to put his nose down a little bit to bring him towards you. I don't know. I've used 1 minute and 40 seconds of motor time, and most of that was playing around demonstrating other stuff that he could do at the beginning. I didn't look at my watch, so I don't know how long we've been flying for, but a while, clearly. As I say, I know I have timed this guy. I've flown a number of timed flights with him. And whenever I've flown a timed flight with him...
Time remaining, 4 minutes.
That's 2 minutes of motor time. Whenever I've flown a timed flight with him, the total elapsed flight time from hand launch to touching back on the ground has been in the range of 7 to 9 times the amount of time I've run the motor for. Now, I wouldn't fly him for the whole... I've got the timer set to 6 minutes, but I wouldn't fly him for the whole 6 minutes on this battery if I'm gliding him a lot, because of course you're still using some motor even when you're gliding him for the receiver and the AS3X and the servos and whatever. I mean, it's not like you're using absolutely no electricity. You're not using anywhere near as much as when you're running the motor, but you're still using some. So as I say, if I took him up to the whole 6 minutes of motor time, then he'd be in the air for over an hour. Well, not over an hour, but about an hour. But I've never done that, and I wouldn't do that, because I think you might well run out of battery time trying to do that. But I have had him in the air for over half an hour. using about 3 minutes of motor time. 3 and a bit, I guess, probably. Because like I say, I think about 9 times is about the best I've done. So you get 27 minutes out of 3, so I was probably using about 3.5. I believe 32 minutes, I seem to remember I was one flight I did with him for 3 minutes and change of motor time. That's a nice morning now the sun's come out. There was a little bit of mist and it was a bit on the chilly side when I got here, but I don't know. Well, I suppose I should bring him in just as much as anything else because this is going to get boring for people, but I like it. I mean, I could sit here for another 10-15 minutes flying him, stand here. And I don't know, that's just one thing, I do get a bit of a crick in my neck standing and looking at it, up at him all the time. You want a lawn chair or something, that would be ideal, lay back in a lawn chair or something to fly him. Because you get, you get a little bit of, let's just do one more quick whatever and then we'll land him. Yeah, I wouldn't, I wouldn't push him too much at this point because the battery, we probably, this has been a sort of a bit of a combination flying and gliding flight, and the battery is probably going to be running a little low, so there's no point pushing him. We're coming in now, famous last words, judging coming in with him. That's one thing, the Radian Extra Large has the spoilers, which you can use to bring it in, to bring it down. This guy's a teeny bit difficult to judge precisely because he glides so well, I'm just circling to land here because I'm not in the long grass, thank you. Because he glides so well, judging where he's gonna, famous last words, nearly hit the long grass then. It's just hard to judge exactly where he's gonna land because he glides so well he can just keep on and on gliding. Well, that didn't do any harm. But I didn't quite avoid the long grass there on the landing. Because I thought I was going to try and land him here just in front of me, but then he was not ready to go down. He was still, okay, let's just run the motor again a minute. He's got quite a lot of thrust. You can really feel him trying to pull away from you when you put the motor on. Horizon, Hobby Zone, Conscendo. Definitely, in its way, one of my favourite planes. I have different planes I like for different things. Off the top of my head, the UMX J3 Cub, the Park Zone, Sport Cub S2. Let's try and stop this guy if I can get at it. There we go. That's stopped. The E-flite Valiant. Well, I guess you have to mention the E-flite Timber as well. I mean, the Valiant has slightly displaced the Timber in my affections. If I had to choose between the two, I think I'd stick with the Valiant. The Timber's a hair bigger, does slightly better short takeoff and landing, but and it comes with floats, which is a big plus. I mean, the Timber's a great plane, there's no doubt about it. But the Valiant's a little easier to throw in the car and does almost everything that the Timber does, so there's a lot to be said for the Valiant as well. And I've got floats on the Valiant, although they didn't come with it. You put the Sport Cub, the original Super Cub floats, I beg your pardon, on the Valiant. But anyway, I'm rambling about other favourite planes of mine. But this Conscendo definitely is up there amongst my favourite planes. It's a terrific plane, and if you get a chance to get hold of one, I strongly recommend it. We had 3 minutes and 15 seconds of motor time on that flight. This is the battery that comes with it, the E-flite's 2-cell 1300 milliamp hour, and it's showing 7.69, 3.84. Yeah. So it's down to about a storage charge. So I mean I kind of like to only take my planes down, my batteries down to a storage charge. Of course you can take them down more than that, but yeah, I mean you could fly them. You could probably fly them for the full 6 minutes motor time I've got on the timer, and you wouldn't actually be going to low voltage cutoff. But that's more typical of how I would fly them. So the battery's only down to about a storage charge.